The Blair Witch Project was a found footage film directed by Myrick and Eduardo Sánchez. It's a movie about three people arguing about maps for 80 minutes.
One of you has got to have the map.
No, I don't have the map. We gave it back to you after map check yesterday. You've always had the map.
I know, and I've always had the map in the same place, and if it's not there, one of you had to have taken it.
I'm not going into your fucking pants to get your goddamn map, man.
I just checked my pocket. It's not in my pants.
Look, would I go in and get your map? All I want to do is get out of here, man. I'm not fucking around.
That's all I want to, man.
The Blair Witch Project stars Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael C. Williams. For the purpose of authenticity, these actors play themselves. Their characters have the same first and last name as the actors playing them. Heather, Josh, and Mike are film students hiking into the woods of Burkittsville, Maryland, formerly Blair, Maryland, to film a documentary on the Blair Witch, an urban legend responsible for the murder of 7 children and possibly the murder of 5 people. As the three get lost in the woods, they start to experience strange occurrences that become more and more dangerous and spooky. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to this year's Halloween series. Today, we're discussing another fantastic horror movie. Today, we're discussing The Blair Witch Project. Let's quickly acknowledge how genius the marketing campaign of this film was. The Blair Witch Project had possibly the greatest marketing campaign ever. This film wasn't marketed as a scripted horror movie. It was made to look like real footage taken by real people who really went missing. Actors play themselves in the movie. The film begins saying that all 3 of the main characters went missing in 1994, and that the film is footage that they took. When the film came out, people who worked on it hung up missing posters of the cast members to advertise the film. People who worked on the film convinced small-town papers to write about the disappearance of Heather Donahue, Joshua Leonard, and Michael C. Williams. The makers of the movie made a fake documentary about the disappearance of the 3 film students that they then aired on the Sci-Fi Channel. The documentary was called The Curse of the Blair Witch, and this doesn't sound that uncommon, but this movie revolutionized the way the internet was used to market movies. The way they did this was by creating a fake website containing fake information and fake locations that might help in finding the actors who weren't really missing, and then creating a website showing off Heather Donahue's journal, documenting the setup to make her documentary film, and her information on the Blair Witch. Another thing that they did, they went onto chat rooms and started, doubting the legitimacy of the film, and then that kind of intrigued people. And they even went on to IMDb and changed the information so that all 3 of the main actors were marked as missing and possibly presumed dead on IMDb. There were so many measures taken to make this film seem as real as possible, and it paid off really well. The acting performances were pretty good, especially when you consider how much of this film is improvised. Everything you hear our characters say to each other is real and authentic. All the banter they exchange and all the arguments they have are real and visceral. That's because most of the dialogue they give in those scenes are improvised. Most of the second act of the film is made up of tension building between our characters and also spooky occurrences, which kind of help in building that tension. Everything in the second act is very well performed because of how much tension was built in that act. This is an incredibly well-directed movie. I love the found footage aspect of the movie, because everything feels a bit more creepier, because we're putting ourselves in the eyes of our main characters. There's also a large bit of ambiguity to the film, especially in the third act, which makes the movie almost 10 times creepier, because there's no clear answer or resolution to the horrifying occurrences happening around our characters. Some of the scares were very smart. This movie relies on creepiness mostly, There are a lot of things that happen in the night that we hear, but we never see. Like children laughing outside our three characters' tent. I really like the scares in that scene. There's also a sparse amount of gore in this movie, but when it is used, it's used very effectively to horrify you. The interesting part of this movie is that there wasn't a script, technically. There was a 35-page treatment. A treatment is the basic details of the story and what's to occur. There wasn't any specific dialogue to go from. There was just the story, so all the dialogue is improvised. I like that idea, don't you? Everyone is just acting like they do normally, but they put themselves in the scenario of the film. Now that's authentic. I love the way this film builds tension within our main group. Everyone has their own problems, and everyone has their own problems with each other. Everyone has different goals, but the pursuit of their goals ultimately affects the entire group. Both Michael and Josh want to go home, but Heather wants to stay in the woods and film her documentary. This movie has possibly one of my favorite endings of all time. I used to think my favorite ending was Toy Story 3. Not anymore. It's a movie completely different now. It's the Blair Witch Project. That's all I'll say. I don't want to spoil it for you, because it's great. The only real problem I had with the Blair Witch was that it takes a while to get into the actual story. The story gets interesting once the group actually gets into the woods, but it takes about a third of the runtime before that happens. So basically, the entire first act moves slow because it's all about exposition to explain this urban legend of the Blair Witch. I understand that the exposition is necessary, especially for an urban legend we know nothing of, but I really think the first act could have done this in a more compact way. I'll give the Blair Witch Project an A-. I liked this movie a lot. I highly encourage you consider watching it this spooky season. Another found footage film I really like is the film Cloverfield. That's a great movie, and it might be one of my favorite giant monster movies. It's one of the rare exceptions of a giant monster invasion movie that can actually scare the heck out of you. That's the only recommendation I have for you, because, to be honest, there's no other movie like the Blair Witch Project. Well, that just about wraps it up for my thoughts on the Blair Witch Project. Before you leave, why don't you tell me your favorite found footage film? I'd have to say mine is a film called Searching. After you tell me about that, you can head on out. Stay safe and watch good movies. Bye!